Hello Internet, this is Lechner here with something a little different. This is a new other series I'm going to start alongside Dragon Age Origins, and the reason I'm doing that is just because at this point, I think at this time of this recording, I have about 366 games on my Steam account, which in hindsight is a little bit ridiculous. A lot of those are things such as Humble Bundles, which actually World End Economica episode 1 is from. So yeah, I thought every Sunday maybe I'd delve into one of these games that are a little offbeat, that are a little off my normal play pattern, and just maybe play them for half an hour or so and just take a look at how they are. So yeah, episode 1, World End Economica, episode 1. Let's get started then. So let's go with the English one so everyone can understand it. In the past, people really believed that there were a doorway to an alternate world on the dark side of the moon. Side note, World End Economica is actually written by the same writer as a series called Spice and Wolf, which is a light novel series and an anime series that, yeah, I think is pretty damn good. The dark side could not be seen from Earth, and it was only a few decades ago that images were successfully taken of it. I'm going to stop reading at this point and let you read it yourself. There were no what? Okay. Yeah, I have no idea what this game is about. And I think this opening is just confusing me more and more. Mankind had never set foot upon any of the glittering stars that were arrayed before them. I'd hope not, because the star's going to melt your feet. Or just melt you away entirely. Okay. That shook me to the core so much that I nearly wet my pants. Yeah, this is some... I'm not going to say this is stellar writing so far. I nearly wet my pants. So descriptive, such poetic words. Afterwards, everything before me became a stepping stone in my mind towards my dream of setting foot where no one had gone before. I had no time to waste. If I didn't act now, then someone else would leave their footprints there first. Faster, faster, much faster. The population continued to grow and time ruthlessly slipped away. Only a handful could be the vanguard of it all. Not a day went by where I didn't ponder what I could see. It would be a new frontier where familiar faces, customs, and the world and the past would not exist. A frontier where every small movement I made would become part of history. The footprints of the first humans on the moon could still be found preserved in the Sea of Tranquility Memorial Hall. Those footprints told uncountable tales. Footprints left in the sand, measuring just shy of 30 inches. Even so, they were amazing footprints that sent shivers down my spine. The image was very pretty, though, I will say that. Have a little slip of my coffee. Have you ever heard a dog off in the distance then? Bang. Coffee cup down. With a click, my mobile PC turned on. I awoke to the whirring of the hard drives. Seriously, I would assume in the time that this appears to be in, to be like, everyone would just use an SSD. No mechanical hard drives anymore, just flash. Since I had fallen asleep, curled up in my chair, clutching my PC, it was difficult to get my body to move. My body felt so stiff, I was sure that a careless motion would break something. Even so, I rather enjoyed the sensation of slowly stretching out my limbs from this cramped position after waking up. It made me feel alive, and truly let me know that I was awake. I willed my arms to move, then my legs. Although hardly efficient, this is how I chose to do things. And was that what happened when I woke up every morning? It was a satisfying action, and one I never had a chance to savour before I left home. On top of the table, I left my rather crude diode lamp on, and a coarse layer of fat had formed on the surface of the leftover coffee in my dirty cup. Ugh. What? What is he putting in his cup of coffee? Layer of fat. Is that just like the milk separated and everything in that? That's disgusting. It's not going to stop me drinking my coffee though. Besides my cup was a half-eaten chocolate bar, which I reached for and crammed into my mouth. I swallowed the unpleasantly sweet chunk as the PC finished booting up. At that moment my brain went to work, as I verified that I had my wallet, memory cards and bag on me, and that none of it had been stolen while I was asleep. It appeared that I had survived the previous night. Only then I breathed a... I really can't read today. Then did I breathe a sigh of relief. However, in order for me to survive today, I would have to make some money. It had been 3 months and 12 days since I left home. Telling myself that I wasn't just some well-to-do kid pretending to be a ruffian, I flipped open the organic display. Magic. Well, that's a bit of an upbeat change. I was staying at a cheap net cafe. Ooh, yeah. It was a good-for-nothing establishment that released real Wi-Fi from another shop, and its customers were equally questionable quality. Blah. Hey kid, a fine morning. No, I'm going to stop doing this. I'm going to stop doing these cheap, retarded voices. It's annoying me now. As I left the booth to go wash my face, an unkept clerk greeted me as he played a game at the counter. I figured he wasn't so much being friendly as much as he was making sure I knew he was watching. Fantastic hair. What is that sticking? Is that just like a hair clip? The only entrance and exit was next to the counter, and off to the side on the wall were the words, "Everyone pays, no freeloaders." Even though this sad excuse for a building wasn't built in a sewage canal, money was always collected. The only thing that concerned me when I left home was finding a place to sleep. Though I had some money, I couldn't really change my appearance. A fine morning. From the your sarcasm, Earth Dog. What the? Is my character an ass? The clerk's face twisted into a smile at my retorts. Oh, this is unfortunate to not know where a real morning looks like. It's the weather here is just a computer program. He said that lightly as he returned his gaze to his game. He seemed to be from Earth. I wondered if he came to the moon as unskilled labour, got fired and ended up here as an outcast of some sort. Why don't you head on back to Earth then? In my words, he turned briefly. Yeah, I really can't read today. He turned briefly to glance at me and laughed sarcastically. Things are a bit better here than down there anyhow. That's how he responded. Moon scum. Seriously, I am an asshat. That responding, I went to the washroom. My name, Yoshiharu Kawara. I was born and raised in this lunar city, so I was a genuine moon scum. Oh wait, I'm the one being called moon scum. I returned to my booth, entered my password and booted up the tool application on my computer. A welcome screen, whose only good point was its friendliness, was followed by a merciless and desolate landscape much akin to the surface of the moon. Countless lines of words flickered onto the screen. I imagine it's the kind of effect you get if you took a picture of the undeveloped part of the moon's surface with a low-res camera. The screen showed a session of the Lunar Stock Exchange. This was the kind of place for Mars. Why am I trying to say Mars? Moon scum like me to make a living. I get rich without needing to break a sweat. I didn't have enough time to earn an honest living. I took a deep breath and went about business. Back to that open music. Downward revision for the first fiscal quarter of CK Bio. Possibility of an investigation into Emerald Industries over suspicion of a collusion regarding inflation. The board of directors at the Lunar Central Bank. With one eye on that stream of news, I focused on managing 220 stocks. Picked up those with a large price fluctuation. For instance, if one stock had moved 10% on the previous day, and another had moved 1%, there's probably a high chance that the stock that moved 10% could move by 1% today. Oh, don't I look just generic with my fabulous scarf? I would trade it on that notion alone. Putting into consideration the mood of the market based on the news, I would buy stocks with the large fluctuations or within the turbulent up and down movement of the price. I could extract some profit, that I occupied myself with, which is really bad, between 9 AM and 5 PM lunar time. between those at lunar time, because that's why lunar. It's not gonna have the same time frames. So why would they call it lunar time? Why they just never mind. Between those hours, the only thing that went into my mouth were food that I could eat one-handed and drinks. To be honest, I'd be so engrossed in trading that breaks were common. Uncommon even if I had the free time to take a break, I'd rather use it to look at my screen than to grasp price fluctuations and do some trades. After all, a difference of a few minutes when making the call to buy or sell could easily mean the difference between gaining or losing 1 or 2%. My war chest was 72,000 mules. 1% of that came out to 700 mules. A store clerk here would make 7 mules an hour at best. This was a place where public school teachers' monthly starting salary was 1,200 mules. So I could make it in a few minutes, or they'd make it in a month. Of course, over the course of a day's trading, some people would win and others would lose. But I was on the winning streak of all streaks, and before I knew it, my seed money of 1,000 mules had ballooned to 72 times that. The one and only time I did honest hard labour in my life was to build that seed money. Since then, I'd just been building my assets through these trades. While the gains were a little less than that there used to be, the greater your assets grew, the faster they grew, so it didn't worry me. It'd be what they'd call a snowball effect. I'd never seen snow before, but I'd seen videos of Earth before, and thus was familiar with it. I decided that I was going to make even more money and then live in the centre of this lunar city. It's a place where tons of ridiculously smart people were gathered. It's said that 70% of this world's wealth was held by the people there. I'd live up there, and then... The back of my head was high on these kinds of delusions as I performed trade after trade like a man possessed. That's why it took me a while to notice. I finally did after I got smacked on the head. Whack! Oh, it's clerk guy again. Yo, kid! I turned around to see the clerk there, but from before, standing in front of the booth's open door. What? You want money? Since when did this place become prepay? What? Was it something else? Was making money not allowed here? What do you want? I'm busy. As I glared at him, the overly skinny, bleary-eyed clerk let out a tired sigh. That's your reply? What? I came to tell you the police are on their way to gather up street urchins, and before the clerk finished the sentence, my PC had been closed and thrown into my bag. Hey, wait! The employee grabbed my shoulder as I tried to push him aside and exit the booth. Though he was thin, he was still muscular, strong enough to remind you that he was an adult. Still, I always kept a set amount of money in my breast pocket for times like this. I grabbed it and thrust it into his hands. Keep the change. I put on my hat, shouldered my bag, and ran down a narrow corridor, wondering what was going on in the booth. A bunch of guys who looked like they were just they just mumbled useless replies to any police questioning, peeked through the cracks from their booths, wondering if someone had been arrested. Tree in the wall. After sliding past the dirty counter, I made it to the store's even filthier exit. Chipped away paint and rust made the already cramped building feel even more claustrophobic. I ran straight down the hallway towards the open door. Action! There were stairs if I turned left at the end of the hall, but I'd never had any plans to use them in the first place. Without a moment's hesitation, I kicked off the floor, jumping as high as I could, passing over the concrete wall. My body flew out over the street. This cat was on the 5th floor of the building. There was a heck of a view below me. I jumped towards the wall of the building opposite me, and then kicked off from that wall, aiming back towards the wall at the first floor. Once the sole of my foot hit a pipe on the wall, I jumped straight up with all my strength and resolve. The human genes have been fine-tuned for living on Earth over millions of years, so with some weight training, anyone could perform feats like these on the moon, where the gravity was lower. What you couldn't do was to allow yourself to miss your daily training. Jumping from wall to wall, I quickly reached the 14th floor of the building next door. I guess my heart rate did go up a bit. I glanced down to see a pair of blue uniformed policemen looking bored as they tapped their batons on their shoulders and climbed the stairs. It seemed that the clerk wasn't paying a prank on me when he gave me that tip. I already paid my thanks to him when I handed him that money though. By now, he should probably have already used that change from it to kick back with some Stormport beer. For a moment, I opened my bag in the hallway and flipped open my PC screen. I ran off in the middle of a trade, and so my position hadn't changed. I should be able to get at least a weak wireless connection out here. If I were lucky, Prices would have risen and I'd have been home free, but usually at times like this, figures. After hanging my head in disappointment, I closed out my losing position and called it a day. Change music again. Nothing good had come from wandering around downtown in the middle of the day. It could come from one little one. I was jumping from one building to the next. I decided to walk down a deserted hallway towards my favourite Chinese restaurant. It was the time of day when most people at my age would get to school, so walking around carelessly would get you chased down by cops before you knew it. Until you turned 18, the legal age here. Legal age. It was mandatory that you belonged to some sort of educational institution. Just like it is down here. Oh my god, it's so different. Actually, I think it's 18 now in the UK. Some people would say that this was a good thing, while others grumbled about something about government-funded programs. I fell into neither camp. My way of dealing with systems I didn't like was to quietly escape them, not to loudly criticise them. On that note, this area with all its complicated passages and extreme elevation changes, it's not odd to see the 7th floor of one building be next to the basement of another, was convenient for people like me. Not to mention the overgrown vegetation here and there that acted as good cover. These plants weren't originally included in the city's plan, but had leaked out from one of the many lunar laboratories. I can't read that, where they messed with their genes. Supposedly, genes had gone tons of factors that express themselves differently depending on the environment. So a lot of plants and animals started acting strangely as soon as they were brought to the moon. There were even people saying that life forms on Earth could have originated from outer space and brought to Earth via the moon. Some of these plants grew so well on the moon's inorganic matter that you might wonder if they'd been around for a million years. Of course, it wasn't as if these plants were free from the laws of physics, and nitrogen and other nutrients for them were often brought over from Earth. So I hadn't heard about any worries that the surface of the moon would be taken over by the greenery. These applied to more than just plants. As for the humans here, it didn't matter how many ultra-elite think tanks came to energise the moon's economy. Jesus Christ. Came to energise the lunar economy and its industries. Life here just wasn't sustainable without sending a lot of things over from Earth. According to the government statements, even if the orbital elevator were to stop moving today, there was currently enough biomass here to create a closed recycling based environment. In other words, we have to wait food, crap it out, then use the scraps to grow more food to it, and so on. We'll be able to make a ton of electricity with solar panels while collecting direct sunlight to use as a super hot source of heat. So maybe they're right. I mean, people even say that Earth was in more danger environmentally, but they were still relying on oil and nuclear power. I didn't know who was right. Whatever the case, I had dreams. And if it meant making my dreams come true, I didn't care if I was on Earth or on the moon. After all, my dream was to stand at the forefront of humanity. To be a place where you could only look forward and live by advancing onward. Who cared about what happened to the world behind you? And if I couldn't make this dream come true, then there'd be no reason for me to live. Wow, that's a really depressing outlook. That was why, put it logically, I've never worried a single bit about the moon's environment. What I worried about was how much money I made and how fast I reached my goals. While I was thinking about these things, I passed through the thickly vegetated tunnel towards high ground. Change. Pretty. It was a clear day, as it always was. On the other side of a translucent membrane, the visible half of the mist-covered Earth looked small. The sky of the lunar city was wrapped in a see-through dome, and right beyond it was outer space. Gravity was weak on the moon, so you couldn't naturally keep large amounts of gases stored up on the surface. Also, while apparently each 24-hour day on Earth had a morning, afternoon and night, which was followed the next day by another morning, the moon alternated between 2 weekdays and 2 weeknights. However, the human body cycle was set differently, thanks to tens of thousands of years living on Earth. Because most of the people living on the moon were immigrants from Earth, its dome had adjusted to give off light in an Earth-like way. It even had sprinklers attached to it that would rain. However, I'd only seen things like downpours and thunderstorms in videos. When it rained here, it was always just a drizzle. Strong winds never blew here. The only winds felt here were the slow coiling movements of the atmosphere due to centrifugal and Coriolis forces, as well as the gentle breeze of the air inside the dome being mechanically circulated. I strayed from the street onto a grass-covered cliff and jumped upward with a grunt. I kicked off a tree branch and rotated my body to land on the top of the tunnel. This was a box seat where you can look down on the greater part of this city. I grabbed some beef jerky out of my bag and bit into it. According to the guys who came from Earth, this wasn't at all close to the real thing, but it's the only beef jerky I knew. There were a number of cities on the moon. The one I lived in was the very first city to be created, and I could get a clear view of the whole thing from here. The spot in front of me where pointed skyscrapers... really? What's going wrong with me today? What's going wrong? Where pointed skyscrapers sprung upward one after the other was called Newton City. It was like entry here was regulated. Yeah. I really can't read. I want to have a little cry quickly. I would have a little cry. And then some coffee. Have a cry and some coffee. Cry and coffee. It wasn't like entry here was regulated. However, it had the feel of a special zone where only certain people could enter, since it was full of giant corporate buildings. Even public places like shopping malls and parks were overrun with police and city regulations. Most wealth here was created in Newton City, and you could find famous tycoons with assets worth over 10 billion mools all over the place. If you had that much wealth, you'd undoubtedly be able to be on the forefront where humanity took its next step. Money could make just about any desire you might have in this world come true. In this world, money ruled all. Money ruled all. Yeah. Like a photograph of the moment, a drop of liquid hit a pool of water. A group of skyscrapers stood in the dead centre of Newton City, while the buildings around the area were suddenly much shorter. That area was where middle-class people who worked in Newton City lived, in what was called... Yeah, they can't even write either. They can't do it either, so it's not just me. Lived in was called... Yeah. That area was where middle-class people who worked in Newton City lived in was called Green City, or the White Belt. Racists! It was a place full of people who loved words like high society and refinement. The kind of people who claimed to care about grace and harmony, but were really full of nothing but pride and obsession with upward mobility. Whenever I went there, I felt sick seeing the sterilised rows of small, nicely manicured lawns and white-walled buildings. There wasn't a single piece of garbage on the streets, and the only plants around there were domesticated trees on the roadside. After that, the buildings in the area around Green City got taller again, but it was a complete jumble. There, power lines dangled messily onto the streets, and vulgar neon signs lit the area, painting the whole place with a feel of squalor. The area was called the outer sections, and while technically they'd all been numbered from 1 to 8, there was no real point. If you considered Newton City the centre of everything, the north was full of factories. There you could find silicon dioxide dissolution factories, fertilizer synthesis factories, automated plantations, and so on. On the east side was the village where I lived. That area was notorious for its hard-nosed residents. You could also find settlements of old-timers who you might call artisans in the area, which made for countless numbers of small workshops. Most people didn't have the luxury of being able to do something like transport wooden furniture via orbital elevators, and land was expensive on the moon, so the houses of Green City were small. As a result, handmade furniture created with the size and shape of your house in mind was far more popular than ready-made furniture. I was told that my parents were aiming to live together with plants brought from Earth in exchange for making furniture out of wood. Even though factories existed that used to be the best scientific advances to maximise harvest rates as much as physically possible, they still grew plants by hand for some reason. They seemed to at least have their customers, but I didn't see a single enjoyable thing about being covered in dirt. It just made me wonder why they even came to the moon in the first place. This wasn't a place for stuff like that. Pardon me. Ugh. The moon was supposed to be a place where you directed your gaze to the top of the ignorant buildings that lined Newton City. And if I shifted my eyes to the left, I saw an area haunted by those who couldn't keep up in that struggle. Here, when buildings started rusting, no one would bother to repaint them. It was nicknamed the Red Valley. The reason it was called a valley was because when Newton City was originally built on a flat crater floor, all the low-income earners came from the Rocky Mountains surrounding the city their home. Seriously, I think someone else needs to do a little bit of rereading of this and editing. And by Rocky Mountains, I didn't quite mean something like the harsh mountainous environments that you might find on Earth. It was actually close to what you might call highlands. As a result, the rock was chipped away to increase surface area, increased surface area like river eroding hills, and many structures could be built in a tight area by terracing the slopes. Furthermore, more space was secured by digging caves into the rocky stretches. It was clearly evident that doing this over and over made for a mess of a city. Not much more than a decade had passed since the city's establishment, and it had already become such a devilish haunt that you wouldn't blame the local government if they just threw up their hands and gave up. As for me, I liked the Red Valley with its level of squalor. While it was true that the people living there could be called outcasts and failures, the place was irresponsible in a good way, and that put me at ease. Of course, I had no intention of becoming the 20% that lived there. And finally, the area where I was right now was called the 6th Outer Section. It was not as degenerate as the Red Valley, but it was not quite as productive as the east side of town. This area didn't even have a nickname yet, and its lackadaisical aspects oozed out of every turn. While the buildings were dirty and worn out, it was dotted with small companies who dreamed of Newton City and the occasional decent-looking house. So it wasn't the worst place to live. Thump, I think. I stood up, hopped back down the street and jogged off. The road was paved with neatly shaved limestone rocks. It was chipped and cracked here and there, but no one ever tried to patch it. The rough dirt of the moon had piled up in its recesses. Waterways were occasionally visible, and in them you could see clear running water as well as fish swimming. While hydrogen was available on the moon, there was no water, so once hydrogen had been synthesized into water, it was made sure that every drop remained circulating within the dome. The waterway's final destination was the giant water processing plant under Newton City. In other words, everything was designed to gather in the centre of the mortar-shaped city, whether it's people, water or wealth. From there, everything was disseminated outward. After crossing the intricate waterways and bridges, I passed through a narrow alley and reached my destination. It was called the Lunar Chinese Restaurant. It's run by a Chinese husband and wife with a strong spirit of enterprise who emigrated to the moon. I could sit down here from early afternoon to whenever, and they wouldn't say a word. However, the elderly wife's health had been fading recently, and the woman who sometimes worked at the restaurant in their place was a bit of a pain. While I prayed that she wouldn't be there today, it was in vain, especially on an unlucky day already full of policemen and stock losses. A person! I think I'm going to finish there for today. And let our intrepid hero do his thing. The hero we don't even know who his name is. If you want to find more about this wonderful story, go by World End Economica episode 1 and look forward to further episodes. Bye!